Just a couple of days ago, four different legacy media outlets all put out the exact same story, trying to accuse Pierre Poilievre's Conservative Party of embracing the language of conspiracy theories. This was rightly called out by a lot of members of the conservative right in Canada as being obvious collusion between legacy media outlets in order to try and smear the Conservative Party under Pierre Poilievre to help out Justin Trudeau. And now I just want to kind of address a lot of the counter arguments that people are making in order to try and, what I think, dishonestly pretend that this is not collusion or some sort of conspiring among the federally subsidized media companies. Now, I just want to bring up first the headline that was used against Pierre Poilievre by these four outlets, just so we can kind of get a feel for what was being said. So, this is what the headline directly read from these four different legacy media outlets. Poilievre Conservative Party embracing language of mainstream conspiracy theories. That was said by CBC, CTV, City News, as well as the Toronto Star. Now, this is obviously not real news. It's effectively an opinion, worked into a report. It's the sort of thing that Rachel Gilmore used to do when she actually worked for Global News. Is just sort of like like the very like a left wing accusation against Pierre Poilievre, disguised as if it's a legitimate media story. But what a lot of people are now trying to claim is that it's not collusion. That the same story was published at these four different outlets because it's a wire story from the Canadian press, and media companies rely on the Canadian press to fill in the gaps in their news coverage all the time. And this is absolutely correct that wire stories are a thing, and oftentimes, like four, five, six different outlets will put out the exact same story from the Canadian press. But it's very, very different in this scenario than it is when you're just generically reporting on a press conference that one of the premiers or the prime minister held. So I just want to go back to some of the examples that people are bringing up. So Andrew Leach was bringing up that there was this story that multiple different outlets put out that was titled "Daniel Smith decries federal interference ahead of meeting or like ahead of meetings with the prime minister." I think. Sorry, a lot of the text is being cut off here, and he's using this to go after Andrew Scheer for calling out the collusion on the conspiracy theory story. But the difference between this story and these other stories I'm about to bring up, which are about Andrew Scheer in the 2019 election and how he's balancing trying to have a wide appeal while being a social conservative, or this other one where Andrew Scheer is like how he balances his like socially conservative views while on the campaign trail and calling out Justin Trudeau and the Liberals for trying to deflect to abortion and other sort of LGBT issues in order to not talk about their actual record. All that stuff are legitimate wire stories in my mind because it's generic. There's not really anything else you can say other than what the guy said verbatim at his press conference. That is a legitimate wire story. But when the wire story is just an opinion smear piece against the Conservative Party, all released pretty much at the exact same time in order to back up a narrative that the Liberal Party is trying to generate at that very moment, that looks to me like, even if all of the different sort of all the different legacy media company executives aren't getting on a phone together and saying we're going to release this story at 3 p.m. Obviously, there is a informal alliance with the legacy media that when they see this narrative come out and when one of them publishes it, they're all going to go in on it because it gives the Liberal Party or other media opinion writers an angle to go after Pierre Poilievre. That's obviously what's going on. And I think Andrew Scheer pointed out pretty well in response to this one journalist, John Iverson, who said, well, I've been working in the journalism industry for 30 years and I've never encountered any of this collusion. And Andrew Scheer rightly points out, it's like, well, it's just spontaneous that they all happen to jump on the exact same anti-Poilievre story at the same time. And this is a deeply flawed story. It's basically saying that Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives are embracing conspiracy theories by calling out the WEF for the things that the WEF directly says on their website and at their conference, and all the Liberal politicians who embrace the agenda that the WEF pushes. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's just pointing out political influencing that the WEF does and how the Liberals go along with it. That's not even a conspiracy that they're calling out. They're just calling out the fact that they don't like the ideology of the WEF. So anyways, the story is deeply flawed, and they all happen to run it at the same time. And even let's just pretend there is zero collusion, there is zero kind of looking over the fence to what the other legacy media outlets are doing and trying to align yourself with the narrative that's being pushed. And like, especially because a lot of the Pierre Poilievre does threaten the media subsidies a lot of these places get. I highly doubt that they're not all trying to sink Poilievre right now. But even if they're not colluding, doesn't that just demonstrate the deep left-wing bias in the editorial rooms in the media companies, that they all happen to go for the anti-Polyev story, the deeply flawed anti-Polyev story, on the exact same day? That demonstrates that the legacy media is not neutral and unbiased, and that I frankly think with Bill C-18 and Bill C-11, all Justin Trudeau is trying to do is be able to shut down discourse from independent media, because that's the only counter narrative coming out right now. Like, yeah, you get a little bit of it from the National Post, but it's not consistent. But I think that it's been deeply dishonest to pretend that as if this story all coming out at the same time does not constitute some form of collusion, especially when so many of the outlets are sharing the exact same wire service stories between them all, in the sense that they all go to the Canadian press. And isn't it a little bit hinky, I guess, that the Canadian press is pumping out wire stories that are supposed to be neutral and unbiased, that directly make an anti-conservative narrative? Nothing based on what Polyev's done, but just based on the spin that the story generates. Well, anyways, I just wanted to quickly address this, because I thought a lot of what people are doing on Twitter, or what's now called X today, is effectively just trying to obfuscate the point by bringing up counterexamples that don't actually get at the heart of the issue of the story being like printed multiple times. It doesn't matter if wire stories are used by multiple outlets. It depends on the sort of wire story that's being used multiple times. But anyways, if you can help me out with my legal case, it'd be great if you can donate to my legal fund at the Give Send Go link below, and make sure to sign up for the National Telegraph's emails at that link, also in the description, just so we can be able to email you out our written content, because Facebook was like 85% of all of our distribution for written content right now, and it's harder for us to get that to our audience. So if you're interested in the stories that we're writing and the commentary I'm doing on this channel and that Daniel Wardman's doing on his own channel, sign up for those emails, because we'll send out links to all of this stuff in order so that you can stay updated and informed in this post-Bill C-18 world, which hopefully is going to end soon. But knowing that Trudeau's Canada is probably going to take a year or two.